Well, hey there, and welcome to Wedding Planning Simplified. I'm Amy from Unmistakably You. I'm a wedding planner and educator here in London, Ontario. And if you are joining us for the first time today, welcome. It is so great to see you here. If you're a longtime viewer, thank you so much for your support. We love catching up with you every week and finding ways to help you navigate your wedding planning, hopefully with a minimum of stress. And happy December. It's not looking very wintry outside today, but we did want to come to you today and talk about how to elevate your holiday tablescapes. So if you are planning a dinner party or if you're having the family over, we're going to go over lots of ways that you can pull together a really elegant, beautiful, and seasonal tablescape. But of course, it applies to your regular wedding tablescapes as well. So don't hesitate to take any of these principles that we're going to talk about today and apply them to your centerpieces for your wedding. Now, before we jump right in, I did want to just welcome you if you are part of our countdown to win. Just make sure that you pop a comment in and just say hi, say excited to be here, say, hey, Amy, say I can hear you, say I can see you, just, let me know that you're here, and that will get you an extra entry into our draw. If you're not sure about our countdown to win, let me give you a quick little update. It is a month-long contest that runs throughout the month of December. Every day there is a different prompt. It's usually pretty simple. But you answer a question, you do a thing, and you get entered into a draw to win one of our amazingly incredible prizes. This year, we've gone really, really big. We've got almost $6,000 worth of prizes, which is pretty incredible. The grand prize is a free day of wedding coordination with Unmistakably You. Then we have 3 vendor prize bundles, which are chock full of awesome stuff. And then we actually have kind of a contest in a contest, and that's for a winter elopement at Lago Goat Yoga Studio. So very, very cool prizes. You get an entry every day, and you get an extra entry just for being here and saying hi in the comments. So glad to see you here. We'll talk about holiday tablescapes. So Effie the elf is here with me. She's hosting our contest, and she's going to help me out here today. She's going to whisper some design principles in my ear so that we can make sure that you have all of the tools in your wedding planning toolbox so that you can pull together a beautiful wedding tablescape or holiday centerpiece. So there are some things that you're going to want to think about. First and foremost, I would suggest starting from a place of color and theme. When you're choosing your colors, if you're choosing a holiday tablescape color, you're probably going to want to find something that works with your home decor so that your table flows seamlessly with the rest of your home decor. Now, that's not to say that you can't do something fun and festive as well, but trying to make it look like it does flow with your decor. If we're putting a wedding lens on that, thinking about working within the venue that you're at. So if you have a venue that has a particularly loud carpet, for instance, like every hotel ever, let's be honest, you're going to want to find probably a color scheme that maybe doesn't compete with that. So I would suggest keeping it to 2 or 3 complementary colors, and we could talk about color theory all day, but I'm not going to jump into that here. There are certainly lots of seasonal colors that you could choose. You can choose your favorite colors. I would suggest 2 to 3, and then a metallic, unless you're doing mixed metals, in which case throw them all in there. They all play nicely together. Then when you're thinking about your theme doesn't have to be like themey. It doesn't have to be like a Minnie Mouse themed holiday party. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. Your theme can be something like a feeling. It can be a feeling of sophistication or of elegance. It can be laid back. It can be rustic. If you have if you're doing modern farmhouse in your home decor, then you could certainly incorporate that into your holiday table decor as well. If we're talking weddings, your theme, again, doesn't have to be super over the top themey. It doesn't have to be, Broadway themed or Harry Potter themed. You could think about a season. Here we're talking holiday tablescapes, but you could do a fall themed wedding or a tropical wedding. So your theme doesn't have to be super cheesy, but you do want to run everything through the filter of, will this work with my classy theme? Will this work with my snow theme? So as you're putting together elements, just run them through the filter of your theme and ask if it works with that theme. Now, the second principle that I want to talk about is that of repetition. And it's the idea that you want to take each element or color or item and repeat it at least 3 times to make your decor feel cohesive and to make it feel like it all works well together. So that could be using ornaments. We've used ornaments in some of the tablescapes that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. And then repeating that circle shape in your place cards, for instance, and making sure that those circles happen a couple of times. It could be repeating your color 3 times. So I'll show you a tablescape in a little while where we've used blue, and we've made sure that we have at least 3 blue elements in there to make sure that it works well together. Then we move on to our third principle, which is levels. And this is going to give you visual interest, and it's going to help you to create depth if you have different heights of items on your tablescape. Now, I would advise you to make sure that nothing is over 12 inches tall, just so that if you're across the table from someone, you can still maintain your conversation. But having different levels will give you that visual interest that you need to sort of keep your eye flowing through the tablescape. Within those levels, I would suggest trying to group things in odd numbers. So if you have candles, let's say, maybe you're going to do 3 tall candles and 3 short candles. And the odd numbers are going to make it more visually pleasing. It's just a principle of the human brain that things look more attractive when they are in odd numbered groupings, 3s, 5s, 7s. Then let's talk texture. And so levels kind of plays into texture. You want to create some visual texture by using different materials, by playing with fabrics, by playing with the items that you've put together so that they have, some visually rough textures and some smooth textures. And it's going to, again, just create that visual interest that is going to help with the feeling of depth and of interest. The fifth one is balance. Now, notice I didn't say symmetry. Symmetry, again, it's not quite as pleasing overall because of that odd numbered groupings principle, but you do want to make sure that your items are balanced along the length of the table, or if you've got a round table, you want to make sure that you don't have one huge item and then a bunch of really tiny little items that get dwarfed by that big item. You want to make sure that you have a balance in sizes and that you have a balance in visual weight in terms of the distribution of the items on your table. And then finally, I think I would be remiss if I didn't talk about function. So don't lose sight of the fact that people are going to eat at this table. That's why you're setting this table. Presumably, you're going to have a wonderful meal that either you've prepared or that your caterer has prepared. And you want to make sure that your guests, whether they're in your home or whether they're at your wedding, can actually have the space and the equipment that they need to enjoy that meal. It's often really easy to get kind of sucked into, putting so much stuff on your table because it's so pretty that you don't actually have space for a functioning place setting anymore. So depending on the elements that you're using in your place setting, they're usually about 13 to 15 inches deep. If you're using a charger plate, it's going to be on the deeper end. If you're not using a charger plate, then it's a little bit shallower. But glassware, you're going to probably need a couple of pieces of glassware. You'll want a water glass and a wine glass. Presumably, you may throw a champagne flute in there. So you want to make sure that people have the glassware that they need for whatever beverages you're serving. You also want to make sure that they have the flatware that they need. So if you're doing a soup course, obviously you need to have a soup spoon. And so you can't have so much in your centerpiece that it spills over into the space that you need to put your functioning tableware. If you're using a charger plate, like I mentioned, it's a really good way to anchor your place setting. So think a little bit about the style of meal that you're serving. If you're doing a plated meal where the food is brought out from the kitchen on a plate, chances are pretty good you're not going to have a plate on the table to begin with. So you'll have your flatware set, presumably, but then you'll have this big empty space in the center. That's a great thing to fill with a charger plate or with a favor or with a creatively folded napkin. You're going to see several different napkin folds. If you're doing any kind of place cards, that's a good thing to fill up that space with. So just think about whether the food is going to be brought out on a plate or if it's being served buffet style. Are you putting your plates on the buffet, in which case they're not on your tables? If you do want them set on your tables, then you have to remember to ask your guests to pick them up before they go to the buffet. So don't forget about function. Including how much space the actual food and other stuff is going to take up on your table. So if you're putting bottles of water or bottles of wine on the table, if there are salad dressings on the table, if there are rolls or bread baskets, if the food is being served family style, you need a lot of space for those platters to go down. Unless you have a sideboard, in which case you've got lots of space to put the food on the sideboard once it's been passed, you are going to need to allow space for that on your table. So keep function in mind first and foremost. But I think the best way to illustrate is, of course, to show you. So my trusty sidekick, thanks Rebecca, and I are going to take a little walk. We are here at our studio today. So we are in our funky little converted factory in Old East. And we've got 4 tablescapes set up. They all have a bit of a holiday theme to them. So we're just gonna go for a little walk. I'm trying to keep an eye on comments here. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to pop them into the comments or just say hi or what you like or what you're wondering as we take a little walk. So we're going to start with actually what is going to transition into my house as soon as we clean this up here. So I've got a modern sort of farmhouse decor in my place. And so I'm going to take this tablescape and just move it on over to my dining table. But you'll notice that we've got some visual interest in the textures that we've used. So we've got actual cedar, real spruce. We have some magnolia leaves in here. And then we've got some natural things like cinnamon sticks and dried oranges, which, by the way, if you're doing that in your home oven, just be prepared. It's going to take a lot of hours. That was what I was doing yesterday. So we've got lots of texture and movement happening here. And then we've achieved some levels with the candles. I actually went to Dollarama, believe it or not, and they have some really pretty candles right now. So we've got 3 different heights of candles. They're all low enough that you would be easily able to converse across this table if it had seats on the other side. I'm using banquet tables here, which is what most venues will have if we're talking weddings. So a venue ordinarily will have a table that's about 30 inches wide. And when you think about the fact that your place setting is likely to be 15 inches deep, that takes up the whole table. So these flat lay garland style centerpieces have become really popular. Thanks, Pinterest. And they're beautiful. There's a reason that they're popular, but just keep in mind that unless you have a harvest table, you're probably going to be pretty strapped for space by the time you get the functional dinnerware on there. So that's why we've set this up with just place settings on one side. Presumably your home dining table is going to be wider than this. And if you have tables at your venue that are wider, go nuts. Do a beautiful wide centerpiece that's, flat lay garland style, but just be mindful of that because you do have to have the functional place settings. So we've created some texture again by using some sort of natural elements. We have a faux burlap linen. We've got some twine on our napkins. We've got the texture of the cedar and we've repeated the elements of the cinnamon sticks. So we've taken the elements from the centerpiece and we've repeated them into the place settings. Even the circles repeat. So we have the circles of the candles, the circles of the oranges, and the circles of the place cards. So repetition at least 3 times, function, texture, and levels. All right, so we're going to move now to our candy cane themed centerpiece. So here, very themey theme, right? This is taking a thing, good old-fashioned candy canes, which my daughter is really excited to eat when I bring these home. And playing off of that. So we've got, again, a flat lay style centerpiece that consists of this is faux greenery, as well as poinsettias. I'm a huge fan of the poinsettias. I actually like to put them on all of my Christmas trees, use them on my mantle. So why not incorporate them into a tablescape as well? They have lots of texture. We've got some sparkle on these ones. And then I've intertwined a candy cane ribbon through here, along with some different colored candles. We've got the red candles and the white candles to, of course, repeat the colors in the candy cane. We've got the greenery repeated on the placement, the actual, what is that? It's a plate, Amy. That's called a plate. So we've got the greenery repeated on the plate. Then we've tucked in a sprig of rosemary behind the candy cane to repeat that greenery 3 times. We've got the candy canes tucked into our red napkins. And then we've used gold flatware and gold charger plates to fill up the center of that place set. So again, lots of texture, lots of movement, lots of levels. Things are grouped together into odd numbered groupings. If you were to look at how the candles are structured, and this is maybe a little bit easier to see on our next table, but they are in odd numbered groupings. They're just kind of spread out so that we get that visual weight so that it looks nice and balanced. Moving on, we're going to go to our navy and gray, just checking for comments here. Looking like we're good. So this one is a little bit less overtly holiday themed, but I tend to associate anything sparkly. So we certainly have lots of sparkle. We've got sparkle on our charger plates, sparkle on our favors, which are beautifully wrapped, as well as sparkle in our runner. And then we've created lots of levels with taper candles. Now the caution, of course, with taper candles is if you are talking wedding-wise now, a lot of venues, most venues, will prohibit open flame. So that's an Ontario Fire Marshal thing, and for obvious reasons, we don't want to burn anything down. So in your own home, you're welcome to use tapers, use them with caution. But we've got different levels, as well as, again, odd number groups. So if you were to look here, we've got a group of 3 tapers, and then we've got a group of 5 votives, and then another group of 3 tapers. So just more visually pleasing than if we did everything in even numbered groupings. We've, of course, repeated the colors. So we have navy in the candles, in the votives, and in the goblets. Again, I picked these up at Dollar Tree yesterday, which was super exciting because I love a good colored goblet. There are some rental places in town for your own dinner party or for your wedding. I also love to do a little piccolo of champagne as part of my tablescape, probably because I love champagne, but also because I think it's really cute. It adds to the trio, the 3 grouping of the wine glass, the champagne flute, and then the actual piccolo. And they come in lots of great colors, especially around the holidays. There tends to be a lot of special edition piccolos that come out. So if your wedding is coming up, you might want to stock up and stock up 2 years in advance, but it will keep for 6 months. So our last tablescape is one that incorporates something that's pretty special to me, and this is definitely, oh, my daughter was moving things around. This is definitely something that I would encourage you to think about for your holiday parties, but also for your wedding, is incorporating things that are sentimental and that are meaningful. So I have my dad's tartan scarf, which I'm using as a runner here. I lost my dad not that long ago, and this is his Scott tartan. And so I have this scarf that means a lot to me. So again, depending on how meaningful things are, you might not want to have people eating and drinking and spilling red wine over it. But incorporating elements that are special to you can really help you to create something that is extra special and give you kind of something to sort of grab onto and say, okay, so this is the base for my design. And then my design is going to sort of reflect how I feel about this thing that's really special to me. So this one pulls colors from the tartan. So we've got the green repeated in the sprig of greenery and the linen itself, as well as the Christmas balls in the lantern. I'm also a big fan of using Christmas balls. They're very affordable, available in literally every color of the rainbow. You can tuck them into a garland, you can fill a bowl with them, you can fill a lantern with them, and you can quite easily bring in any color that you want. So I've pulled in the red from the tartan as well as the green and the white. And then you can see this is fairly simple, but I do have some elements that are adding depth and texture. So we've got the charger plate, we've got the texture of the sprig of rosemary on the place card, and we've got the height of the lantern with the 3 votive candles to balance that out. So generally speaking, we're trying in any design, whether we're talking about creating a tablescape or whether we're talking about decorating a Christmas tree or whether we're talking about how you're going to redo your living room, you want to think about running things through the filter of color and theme to make sure that they are cohesive, to make sure that everything plays nicely together. You want to think about repeating elements, whether that's colors, whether that's specific, candles or whatever you're bringing in. You want to repeat the size, the shape, the color at least 3 times. You want to create levels. If we're talking tablescapes, we want to keep it under 12 inches. And those levels are going to create visual interest, which is going to be helped along by grouping things in odd numbers, 3s, 5s, 7s. You are going to want to think about the function of your table specifically, making sure that you've given guests enough flatware, enough glassware, and thought about whether there's enough space on the table for the extra things that are going to accompany the meal. And if you can pull all of those elements together, then you're going to have a beautiful design. I can't wait to see your holiday tablescapes. So if you have something that you've pulled together, snap a picture of it, post it in the group. I would love to see what you've come up with. And if you have any questions, as always, don't hesitate to ask. I think I'm not seeing anything in the comments here, but oh, I do have 3 comments. Hang on. Thought I muted that. Sorry. Oh, Jillian, hello. Oh, Laura's here too. Thanks, Laura. So as always, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, amy@unmistakableyu.com, or a message here on Facebook. If you're participating in the Countdown to Win, I can't wait to see you around for the rest of the month. And please join us here next week. We're actually having a cocktail party, so pour yourself your cocktail of choice. We're going to talk a little bit about how to make beautiful and functional cocktail bars for your wedding. Enjoy your week. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll catch you next week. Take care.